Hello and welcome to another Ideal Investor Show episode. And I'm wondering for this week, have you ever considered not just investing in real estate, but really making real estate your profession or basically your main occupation? So we help you in our system to mentor you to build a portfolio. But our guest, Chris Prefontaine, he goes one step further and is going to show you in our conversation today how you can earn 3 times through your real estate investing and really make it your main occupation. Basically, not having to really worry about any other job or any kind of other things anymore than just real estate and how you make your money work. So stay tuned, it's going to be really cool. Hello and welcome to the next episode on the Ideal Investor Show. Here we are today with a real expert in real estate. His name is Chris Prefontaine. Chris, hello to the Ideal Investor Show.
Hey, good to see you, and thanks for having me on the show. I look forward to our chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And I wanted to ask you, can you give a little bit of an introduction? How did Chris get into real estate and what are you actually offering to your clients?
Sure. I'll be brief. Axel, as you know, I've been at this 30 and a half years, so I don't want to, we'd be here all night.
Yeah, I was born in...
Yeah. So my real estate started in 91. So I'm just going to walk you through really fast. I dabbled in the building business, built a few hundred homes, then owned a realty executives franchise in the brokerage world. I sold that to Coldwell Banker in 2000. I then started working on my own properties, my own investments, and started coaching people throughout the United States and Canada. And then the crash came in 08. You know, the crash really beat me up financially, mentally, and every other way. But that was the impetus to get us where we are today. That was because we said, all right, we're not going to go back and create the same problems or make the same mistakes. So we kind of set up some rules, some protocol, if you will. And they were things like no signing on bank loans personally ever again. It's just not worth the risk. I don't care what market you're in. I don't care how strong your credit is. That was not putting our own personal capital up. That was not even borrowing from investors to put capital up. So we just don't go down that road. And so it makes it pretty recession resistant with that coupled with our method. And so now fast forward, we buy properties. We only buy them on terms, lease purchase, owner financing, and subject to existing financing. That's our family company locally. Then we go out, we teach that across the country. And I know a lot of people teach or have courses. We actually are in the trenches doing deals with the students. I don't think there's another better way to learn than interactive, hands-on in the trenches. So that was 30 and a half years in 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's very, very good and awesome summary. I wish I could be this concise. I've been trying for many years, but I'm still not quite where I would like to be. But I'm going to review how you're doing that. So that's
Good
really
stuff.
good. So this is a little bit different on the one hand to how we operate, but I think one of the common ground aspects, and maybe we can start there and dive in a little deeper, is that we're both coming from a place where we say there are people out there, and I mean, I'm not quoting it quite perfectly, but when I reviewed the materials, your website and all the stuff that you're offering, it looks to me that we are both out there to say people are being fed a set of what sounds to be facts and information that basically says, if you want to be a good boy or good girl, then you get out of high school with good grades, you get into college to get a degree, then you get a job. And even though in modern times, you have to assume that this job changes maybe 10 times, maybe 15 times until you retire, but you be a good girl or boy and you're working hard, you're making your money, you put a little bit of savings. Maybe if you're really, really lucky, you pay off your student loans. And maybe if you're even more lucky, you might get into a house. And then when you get somewhere in your late 60s, early 70s, then you are eligible for Social Security. And that's what we consider a good life. And please don't go anywhere beyond that. So I think we both are in the business of telling people, and I'm saying it, you don't have to say that's just bullcrap. And it shouldn't actually be positioned this way. And I think what we're helping people with is to see that there is an alternative to whether you use financial freedom or time freedom point, like I call it. So with that in mind, would you agree? And what would you say to somebody who says, well, do I really have to live this life? Or what could I do to live a different life?
First of all, very good question. Very high demand question and point.
Yeah.
So I like answering questions with either real examples or real deals or real things, right? Because that tells like what I do is what I do.
Right.
So I'm going to answer that a few ways. My son, who had a head injury in 2003, he was in a coma for a month and the doctor said he wouldn't walk or talk or eat again. Fast forward, he got out and he started tutoring and learning how to read and write and add again. Fast forward again, Nick successfully got through high school. He's in our business now. You'd never know he had an accident. So he defied the odds. But the point of tying it to this, Axel, is this. He didn't go to college and he's got quite a real estate background in business with us. He also has a speaking business and he's just about to be on a TED Talk. So I'm a big believer in if someone needs, quote unquote, a specialty like I want to be a surgeon. Okay, then you best go the path of school. However, there are a lot of other avenues people can take. And when Nick said, I don't want to go to college, I want to do what you do, I said, great. And I created a curriculum. I'm going to bring you through my mentors, my dream team, my seminars that I've been to. And that's what he did. So my daughter wanted to go pre-vet. That requires the education path. Right. So I think education, I hate to say it, can be a waste. I won't say can be a waste. I went to college, but while I was in college, I worked. So that whole pathway that you gave, I was just honing in on college there, but the whole pathway you gave, that put me to sleep because that is a boring path, right? Look, we teach, as you know, how to get paid 3 times on each deal. And each deal is worth like 45 to 250 grand, each deal. So my question would be, why would you go that route when you're locked in a cage, so to speak, with someone else's schedule, when you can, to the purpose of our company, go out and create the lifestyle of your dreams? You can, if you want to. And there's no better time right now in this market. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but there's literally no better time to go ahead and take that path. Axel, we're seeing, and then I'll throw it back to you. We're seeing people from corporate America, probably because of COVID, I get it, but 6-figure earners saying, I'm all set. I'm done with that. Great. But they had me strapped down for all those years and they're coming into our niche like more than I've seen ever. Doctors, attorneys, dentists, medical salespeople. I'm just going through my head of recent students that came in. And so there's just no need of that path. That was a long answer. I'm sorry, but a very good question.
No, that's absolutely what I was looking for. And I'm sure our audience is looking for that. Part of this aspect, even though you focused it on the college time or the early development time, I think has to do in some way with this still existing notion that success has something to do with hard work and earning somebody's trust. And what I believe what we are getting into and why these doctors and lawyers and other people in well-paying positions are actually contemplating, and they had 2 years in a way forced on them to contemplate if this is really the way life is supposed to be, I believe has to do in a way with this conditioning that things that have higher value, like real estate that we're both in and helping people to get into, is at a level that you have to work your way up towards, right? It's only for the 1%. You have to be rich or you have to be, born with a silver spoon and stuff like that. And before I get into the next question about that a little bit, I think what you described for your son is, because for me, as somebody who originally came from Germany, is really the redevelopment or rediscovery of this old apprenticeship model. Right? Yep. Where you say, okay, well, it used to be that only people, like you just said, who really, really needed an academic degree. And I like sometimes to go a little bit into history and say, okay, do you know where the term lecture comes from? Just to realize, okay, that was when we had no Gutenberg and not very many books. So somebody was actually standing at a lectern with the one book that had as much of the wisdom of the topic that was available at the time, right, and told people about it, and then they could take notes on it. Right. And that is not really required for everything. So in Europe, or at least in Germany, they have this system where they say, okay, if you want to learn to be an electrician, a plumber, or any kind of trade, you become an apprentice and you learn from a master, like Chris is of the words, who mastered the skill. And then you can become a journeyman, and then ultimately you can become a master. And if you're really good, one of the select few, then you can get your certification to teach other apprentices as a master. Right. And I think that sounded very much to what you were saying about your son and what he wanted to do without going to college. To this point that you said earlier, you said this is probably the best time we've been in. And you mentioned you have lots of experience to be a fair judge of that. Why would you say it's one of the best times for what we're doing?
Yeah, it's a perfect storm right now, in my opinion. It's the opposite of what you're going to hear in the media. And that's good because the masses are going to go run with the media. Listen, here's why I say it in no particular order. I don't want anybody listening to prioritize, just as a whole, listen to some thoughts. Why do I say perfect storm? Well, you've got inevitably and already happening forbearance loans from COVID that are now due. How do I know this? We have the luxury, I'll call it, of having students all over the country. And all of a sudden, in the last 2 or 3 months, especially 2 or 3 weeks, they're calling us saying, I can't believe how many sellers are calling me in trouble. Why is that? Forbearance agreements, they're coming due. It's time to pay. And they can't. And it's a sad situation. There are books written on these different trends that have happened over the years, right? And they're going to be continued to be written. I've been at this 3 decades. For 3 more decades, this will still happen. And that is these little pockets of needed help pop up. Right now, that's one issue. Second issue, interest rates. These are not predictions because nobody can predict as much as they think they can. These are just what's going on. There are going to be some hikes in interest rates. So the Fed says. That's not my prediction. They say that. They say 3 to 5, the last I heard, this year. Okay, so that's happening. Guess what? As they go up even 1/8 of a point or whatever they go up, they are going to flush out hundreds of thousands of buyers that are on the borderline of qualifying. They need a place to go, and we get to do it on Creative Real Estate. We get to put them in a home, and they get to buy that home. That's pretty cool. So that's why I say it's good timing. Next, when the interest rates go up and these buyers now can't qualify for conventional financing, sellers aren't selling as they were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. That's opportunity. So as the market changes, there's opportunity. And people say, should I get in? No, stop timing the market. The market can't be timed. Commit to real estate. You can work with Axel. You can work with me. You can work with so many professionals, but get in the market and then commit to being in it for a decade or 2 or 3, and then learn how to pivot in the different markets. That's what I've been doing since the '08 crash. Learn how to pivot in the markets. This term's niche that I'm in, I built to thrive in all markets. I don't care if it's up, down, or sideways. It's just a matter of how we pivot. And so I'm pretty passionate about this because there's a perfect triangle. I'll use the word perfect again, and then I'll toss it back to you. A perfect triangle is this. I don't care what market you're in. Look for one side of the triangle, something that is a need, a problem. It's a real estate problem. That's what we do. We fix. Next, fill the need. Like fix it, fill it, help that person in forbearance. We'll show you how. And third is you will be paid handsomely for it. But guess what? You also help the family that you help financially as well for generations to come. That's a perfect triangle. And that's going to always exist. It's just a matter of what those sides of the triangle look like. Does that make sense? That was a long answer.
Yeah, totally. And I'm absolutely with you on that. Not everybody is necessarily in a position to fix side of the need basically by themselves. Like in our model where we be a little bit more traditional when it comes to lending and so forth, we have developed these really strong relationships and partnerships with those who are experts at fixing stuff. And maybe we will have something like that with you as well. But fundamentally, I totally agree. The other part, you mentioned the interest rate environment and foreclosure and forbearance situations. That triggered me to remember Bigger Pockets, which I'm frequently going to, to help people. That's, because so many new people come into the industry and have questions.
Yeah.
It's the same question that they asked that you just touched on. I always respond, and it's not from me. I don't remember who said it. Is the best time was 25 years ago, and the second best time is now, right? And I think really everybody listening or watching us should realize this. This is one of the things where you only basically lose if you never start. It doesn't matter when you start, but if you start and you connect with somebody like yourself, Chris, or myself, or people who want to help you, for one, discover what is my best path. We call it the ideal investor journey. And one of the things I had to learn, I want to really ask you that next is, for me, I really struggled because I'm coming from this position of always wanting to help people, to tell people, no, I'm not the right person for you. Right. And this is what I mean by, there is a certain group of people who can get comfortable with having to learn first some of the complexities of the approach before they actually feel comfortable to do it themselves. And I find the same thing as well. So can you say a little bit about who is it right for, and who would you say, okay, if you want to do this or if you want to do that, then you're better off maybe finding some other expert who can help you?
Couple of things that come to mind, and I'll weave in here with my answer because this is a good question. What we've seen in the last 8 years, let's call it. I think we went back as far as 5 with, okay, who's our avatar? Like who fits in this niche, right?
Right.
Okay. In no particular order. If you're looking for something that is like more behind the computer, where you deal with less people, where you might want to be a wholesaler or a land flipper, that's available. Real estate's a people business, but there's a few tiny niches within it that you could do that. Other than that, I think you need to be a people person no matter what.
Right.
Even with COVID, where we're doing a lot of virtual, you've got to communicate with the seller. You're solving real estate problems and usually the biggest asset in their life. You've got to be able to communicate. Now, can that be learned? Yes. I want to mention something later that is called confirmation bias, because I don't want you to think, okay, then I can't learn how to communicate. Yes, you can. We can show you how. Second, the person that grew up around a family business, knew someone in a family business, or just wanted entrepreneurship tends to come into the Wicked Smart community. We tend to be a family environment. We tend to be, the niche of terms is you really got to care about people. Let's face it. Like you're helping buyers and you're helping sellers because you're solving real estate problems or helping them accomplish a goal they couldn't otherwise accomplish.
I like the term community in that context, like building
100%. Yeah. So entrepreneurship, a lot of people that come to us successfully are people that want to build a business versus just doing a deal, even though they're very lucrative. They want to learn the whole picture, because I can teach a lot of people, Axel, as you can, how to do a deal. But when you start to get into entrepreneurship, it does involve other things, the mindset and all these things you and I are talking about. It matters. So they tend to flock to us.
I want to just interject here real quick. If anybody goes to your website, what I really liked when I reviewed it was that you're saying not only build a business, but build a business that pays you rather than a business that serves others, right? So I think that's an interesting little twist on having a business.
No, it's huge, because I was in the business 18 years before I want to say discovered, but before I started tweaking and inventing this that I'm doing now. We've trademarked most of what we do. What was the difference between then and now for me, and who would fit here? I get paid once on a deal. I get paid well, but I got to go do that deal again.
Right. Over and over.
Yes. And now we get paid 3 times. So that's why it tends to attract the entrepreneur. People who join us say, oh, I was going to buy a large multi and instead I joined your program. Oh, I was going to buy a franchise, but instead I joined your program. So entrepreneurial thinkers, big thinkers, and they may already have a good corporate job that they can leave. So they're not like needing a deal tomorrow. That's the ideal people that we see excel. And look, we've had all kinds of different backgrounds, but that's the ideal if you want me to boil it down to your question.
Okay. No, I think that comes across pretty clear. I mean, the people person thing, I made a little note here because I find this equally important. I like to basically use something that goes a little bit to music in the context of resonating with people, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to necessarily play the exact same music. Some play syndication, some play multifamily, some play, and you could say, classic and pop and heavy metal or whatever, but you need to have something to resonate on together. Then that basically helps to always find that common ground again, even if you have every once in a while a disagreement or need to repeat something or so forth. So this term of resonating, I mean, there are a few terms that I find are really, for me, gaining more and more clarity. I've been doing this not quite as long as you have, but for probably a little more than 10 years now, like balance, resonance, community, engagement, and there's a million other words that mean the same thing. So that's really cool. Now, I wouldn't have asked Chris to come on if I wouldn't want to ask you to say, how can you get paid 3 times on a deal?
Yeah. Okay. So what we trademarked is this. We exit deals with buyers that need time to get to the mortgage that's conventional mortgage. The huge entrepreneurial onslaught that is happening now because people are leaving corporate America and going to do their own business, which I love and I applaud. But guess what? They can't qualify. They need 2 years of seasoning, the bank calls it, 2 years of history, if you will. So that's a buyer that comes in and we help them get mortgage qualified. But while they're in the home, there's a lease vehicle that gets them to the end zone. So it's a rent to own. So that's a non-refundable down payment. That's payday 1. We average around 28 grand. Our family team, some of our students are much higher than us. The second payday is, so picture that, it's cash now. Cash continuously is the second payday, which is I'm going to be paying on some kind of an underlying debt that's in the seller's name, not mine, or I'm paying directly to a seller if it's owner financing. But then I'm collecting from my buyer who needs time during their rent to own period. And there's a spread there. And that spread ranges from, $300 to $1,200, let's say. Well, that's payday 2. And that's every month per property. And then payday 3 is really neat. It's the markup in the property we did day 1 when we sold it to them as a rent to own, waiting for them to cash it out. And it's all of the principal pay down on that underlying debt throughout the term. Just like if I owned it, I get all that principal pay down. So the 3 paydays for us average around 75 grand, Axel. The 3 paydays for our students around the country range from a low of 45,000 to a high of 250. We're in a lower end of that just because of our price range as a family team in New England. But that's the 3 payday system. And quite frankly, there's nothing else out there like it because we trademarked it. But there's also, in my opinion, no better business model. If you and I were going to open a restaurant tomorrow and someone showed us a system where we get paid right away and we get paid monthly and we get paid longer term and those paydays kind of staggered throughout, we'd be like, okay, this works for me. This is a good business model. Forget real estate. So that's why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for explaining that. There were a few terms in there that might need a little bit of an explanation.
Okay.
One, and I have made videos about it, but since we're talking about it, I'm sure you have the concise answer. Like, why would somebody prefer, for example, owner financing versus just straight out, I buy the thing or get my money from the title company, be done with it?
Yeah, as a seller, you mean?
Yeah, I'm always asking it from the perspective, okay, so you have one of your students coming in and they say, okay, well, I want to do one of those deals, Chris, that you mentioned on the podcast about owner financing, but why would they even do it? Wouldn't they be preferring to just be done with it, sell it, done?
Yeah, you would think, but here's a couple different stats for you, again, in no particular priority order. I'm standing today. I think when I met you because of COVID, I was in my home office, but I'm standing today in my office building. My office building is on a very busy road that I look out at right here. And you would think that people would want to buy this owner financing if they knew it was available. The gentleman who I approached owned it free and clear, which is who we like to deal with when we're talking owner financing. See, we solve problems, but we also deal with people that don't have problems. They want to get the most. I paid him his asking price. Why did he prefer to sell to me versus just selling on the open market? He owed nothing on it. Right. And it's a busy road and it's a very sought after market. Well, he didn't want to be cashed out for tax reasons. Number one, he didn't want to be cashed out for estate planning reasons. His wife and his son, sadly, he's passed away since then. And so he made the right move. He has his wife set up he gave me a 20-year note. Smart move on his part. Maybe he knew something. I don't know. So tax reasons, estate planning reasons are the 2 biggest things I see, and price. An owner who is free and clear, especially, but any owner that's financially somewhat even savvy a little bit wants their price. And if they'll give me the term, I'll give them their price. And that's more important to them. Now, someone who says, it's more important to me, Chris, to sell this property. I have a family. I have to go buy another property. Okay, say I'm not your buyer. You've got to wait for your cash. You'll probably get more, but you got to wait over time. So that's who likes what we're doing from a goal standpoint. The people that are in trouble and need financial relief tomorrow, they deal with us because we can fix it tomorrow. You know, like if you're behind in arrears or your forbearance needs catching up, whatever it might be. So different scenarios that I just gave you, but that's pretty much a top level summary.
I really appreciate that about the owner finance, because I think that is a very good example for somebody to say, okay, well, here's the price. I don't have to wait. I am going to get, let's just say, a couple $1,000s a month for a set period of time.
Right.
And that's more important to me than just getting basically a lump sum payment. And I think I just want to re-emphasize this. It depends a little bit on the circumstances, and it's specifically even more pronounced in a business property or a commercial property, because you don't have that benefit of your own personally occupied house where you can get up to $500,000 of gain without having to pay taxes on it. But if it's anything other than that, other than your residence, basically it's income unless you exchange it, which is a totally different topic, right? So for people who are not that familiar with, that's why somebody would say, well, rather than having to give away anywhere between 20 or 30% of that gain to the government, I rather get paid every month and have it over time. And then it's way more manageable over time as well. So thank you for explaining that. So with that all being said, we now know how we can get paid 3 times, how we can learn. One more thing I wanted to ask before we come to the last 2 questions. You have created this academy. Do you want to talk a little bit about what people can get when they join you in the academy? Yeah.
The academy was built to be a living, breathing, always evolving school that lives online, that unlike most programs, and I'm not criticizing any one particular program, but the fact is, if you bought a program during COVID that was created before COVID, you've got outdated material in your hand.
Right.
And quite frankly, if you didn't have a program from like right now in this kind of quarter, you get a program that's outdated. The market just changed again. Yeah. So we keep it updated constantly. We just did a complete overhaul again, and we did it when COVID started, and we just constantly rotate through it. So it starts out with our foundational course. And then because of what you and I talked about on this entire show with all this other mindset and skill set and system, we call that our genius model, those three things. Because all that's important, that's also loaded up in the academy. It's about, 11 or 12 grand worth of products in that academy, and they pay a small monthly fee. I'm big, however, Axel, on free. We said this last time we talked, like whatever niche you resonate with, as Axel said, great. If you, for free, look into YouTube, and I'll give you a free book when we're done the show. Like when you look into all that and you go, okay, this looks good to me, then venture into the academy. I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing the academy, but I'd rather have you be absolutely certain that this is a home where you want to be, and you'll commit for that decade, and you'll go, okay, I'm in this. Show me how to survive and thrive. Then I want you in the program. I don't want you in the program if you just kind of, I'm going to dip my toe in the water. No. There's enough free things to dip your toe in. Then go ahead and do that. So we'll give you some free stuff to look at by the end of the show. Yeah.
Want to name anyone since we're there anyway right now?
Sure. Go to wickedsmartbooks.com, wickedsmartbooks.com/ideal investor. And if you go there, when you go there, you're going to get my free Amazon best-selling book. So don't go buy it. It's hardcover. And we're going to give you the book, not electronic. We're going to send it to you. And you're not going to get asked to put a credit card in for $3 in shipping and all this garbage that you hear that it's free, but it's free totally. We're going to ship it to you at our expense. It cost me. There you go. You got it.
You can.
Yep. It's going to cost me the cost of the book plus shipping. I'm willing to do that. Why? I think it's going to resonate with you. That's why. And I'm willing to gamble on that. And so I hope you enjoy it. And if you wanted to go further, we give you plenty of opportunity to talk to us throughout that process. wickedsmartbooks.com/ideal investor.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And you shared a whole bunch of other stuff where people can find you that we're going to put in the show notes. And you used the word that I used earlier, resonate. I really think when we make the decision of who we want to work with, I appreciate that you explained a little bit this whole approach about free. I use the analogy to say, you might be in a certain genre of books, for example. And then you get a couple of different authors and you start reading into it. And some are so captivating that you're staying with it. And some you read and you read a little more. And if you're patient, you might read the second chapter just to come to the conclusion. Somehow it just doesn't connect. And then
you throw it away.
And throw it away and never.
Yeah.
See, and that's, I think, in that way, that resonance to say, I want to see if that style, if that approach, if that content, the completeness of what's there, those kind of things, if those resonate. So I think that's really awesome. So now, almost at the end, I have to ask those two questions I always ask.
Fire away.
So the first one is, if you could meet anybody, living or no longer living, that you have some interest in or fascinated by, who would it be and why?
I change my answer on this on occasion when I get asked. I'm thinking like the Carnegies or the Vanderbilts because they have history here in Newport, Rhode Island, number one. Number two, there was some serious industry in nationwide effects they had. So to sit and pick their brain, to me, would be absolutely amazing with the limited resources they had.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Garrett Gunderson's comparison between Vanderbilts and Rockefellers?
Yeah, I read his book. I think he has more than one. The Sacred Cows Don't Eat Hamburgers. Yeah. Was that one of them? Yeah, I read his stuff.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was kind of interesting since you mentioned Vanderbilts, the difference from a generational wealth perspective that in some cases like Rockefellers, I think they're like fifth or sixth generation and haven't really lost a whole lot of the value. Whereas the Vanderbilts, have people that need to be on CNN.
Yeah, I washed it away. I read his book, the Vanderbilt book. It was interesting because they talk about doing real estate in the 1600s in there, which is another whole talk. But I found it interesting that they washed away their whole fortune, gone. Yeah,
exactly. Well, it has to do with who you're reaching out for help, how you actually your mindset work. And I think it's a good lesson, maybe a little bit different if we ever do another show again, where we could talk about estate planning, trust and stuff like that, because I believe part of it is how much foresight do you put into these kind of things? You never know if they're actually being followed, but if there's very little there and people just think, hey, I'm born rich, I can never have to worry about money, then 3 generations later, you're done, right? Okay,
Agreed.
So the second question is, if you had a time machine, Chris, where would you go and why?
Where would I go and why? Well, I would, instead of leaning on the Carnegie Vanderbilt era, I will lean on my 20s. And the reason is I've been married since I was 20. I'm 56. There's a few mentors that I'd love to go back and revisit, because I think that's the ticket for you and I and anyone else listening, is latching on to the right people for mentorship and coaching. So I think I'd go back to then.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, one of the things that I never say when I ask the question, but it's kind of implied, is that we at least take a good chunk of what we've learned when we get in the time machine, especially if we go back, because I would love, I mean, you won't believe, and I don't know if that ever happened to you or occurred to you, but to me, I'm kind of proud of what I've learned, especially with working in the same space that you're working on. But I learned it by my judgment way too late, right? If I could take not all the details, as you said with the academy, the details change and need to be updated. But getting the fundamental understanding, like this, even the simple thing that I keep harping on Maslow's pyramid about security, food, and shelter.
Yeah.
If somebody, and it almost doesn't matter, if somebody would have made my mind clear in my 20s or anywhere in my 20s, pick one of those and really
world of difference.
Servant, become a servant on that for the rest of your life. Forget about the degrees and stuff like that. That would have been awesome, right? And I'm actually intrigued to say, not if I had a time machine, to go there and maybe change the future a little bit. But I also really feel a strong urge to say, well, if nobody does it, obviously, because I wasn't exposed to it, maybe I could go back there and do it for them. Yep. Even if it's not for me, but for other people. Right?
Yeah, amazing.
Cool. All right. So, Chris, thank you again for sharing that with us. So, one more time, you mentioned where they can find the book. Any other things that you would say, where can people go to get in touch with Chris?
On the website, they'll find everything, smartrealestatecoach.com or that wickedsmartbooks.com/ideal investor. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoy it. Every time when we come together, I enjoy our
that's awesome. I appreciate it.
Right after, I'm going to put on the t-shirt so I get a little smarter again.
That's awesome.
And then we do it again maybe next time.
I love it. I look forward to it. Good to see you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Take care, Axel.